It is the Magic Hour podcast. I am Chris Madrigal. This week, I am by myself. No guest this week. I had one guest that was supposed to come on and talk about the PGA Championship. His name was Bradfield. You guys all know him, but he bailed on me, so fuck him. I start off talking about the NBA bubble, or the restart, specifically the teams in the bubble that are on the bubble. Shitty humor for you. Teams that are pushing to get in the playoffs, fighting for that 8th seed. Go through all those teams, what the scenarios are, because there's some very interesting scenarios going into Thursday's games, which I'm calling Super Thursday. All 4 of those teams play. There's 4 teams involved: Portland, Memphis, San Antonio, and Phoenix. All 4 play on Thursday, so that will pretty much be decided then. So I go through the scenarios. And I talk about the teams and what I like about them, and then a little bit of the playoff picture. And then I talk about the PGA Championship this past weekend. The new up-and-coming golfer who won that tournament, Collin Morikawa. I really think he's going to be special, and kind of how the drama unfolded on Sunday. Also, how the rest of the field shaped out, and what we can look forward to for the rest of the major season with the U.S. Open just next month and the Masters coming up in November. So this is the Magic Hour podcast. Here we go. What up? Welcome back. I'm Chris Madrigal. NBA bubble had kind of a crazy day today. So I wanted to talk about that before I went into the PGA Championship and stuff like that. So let me paint a picture for you guys real quick first so that you understand exactly where we're at. So more or less the table is set. In the East, Milwaukee is number 1, Toronto's number 2, Boston is 3, Miami Heat is 4, Indiana Pacers are 5, the Philadelphia 76ers are 6, the Brooklyn Nets are 7, and the Orlando Magic are 8. Not much drama going on in the East. Everybody pretty much more or less has one game left in the regular season because the regular season ends on Friday. Friday the 14th. There's not much movement going on in the East. Maybe there could be some change between the 4 seed Miami and the 5 seed the Pacers, but maybe the 6 seed the Sixers. But with the way those teams have been playing, they're pretty predictable. I think we could see that kind of like pan out exactly the way it is. Orlando, me, Xavier, and Jackson talked a lot about at the beginning of the season how we felt like Orlando would bump up to 8, and the Nets could bump down to or bump up to 7, and the Nets could bump down to 8. But the Nets surprisingly are playing pretty good basketball without Kyrie. Maybe they're just a better team without him. I don't know. Maybe they mesh better. Maybe without dealing with his craziness in the locker room, it's just an easier situation for all of them. But they really kind of created some distance. They're 3.5 games ahead, so that's pretty locked in. And the Wizards never had a chance. They were 7 games out. Without Bradley Beal, that's just a tough situation. And we talked about it before, I think last week on the bonus episode. There's just no scenario where, their best player was Rui Hachimura, and he was like on and off. Like one day he's scoring 14 points, the next day he's scoring 25. Like he's not a star. He can't lead you into the playoffs. There was nothing there that was going to make it happen. Whereas like Brooklyn, they actually have a pretty well-rounded team. Obviously, they don't have a star player, but this is the East we're talking about. In the East, pretty much anybody can get in. It's only really top-heavy 1 through 4. Other than that, it's kind of a lot of emptiness. Actually, you could argue the Pacers with Oladipo back are a pretty competitive team, but I would say, okay, then 1 through 5, because, the Sixers are just abysmal. They got a good nucleus, though. Jamal Crawford really didn't play that much because he got hurt, so that was a complete just pointless signing. But Jared Allen, Joe Harris, Karis LeVert, those guys have been playing well. A little surprising, but hey, man, they made it into the 7th seed. They're going to have to play a really tough Toronto team going ahead, so I don't think that's going to be much of a contest. But good for them for getting there, and some momentum going into next season. Which when they got their 2 stars back, who knows what'll happen. I would, you could maybe make the argument that they're a top contender. But that stage is pretty much set. Milwaukee already clinched the 1 seed. They're good to go. Now the West, a little bit more interesting. So I think the Lakers aren't as good as we thought they were in the main regular season. Like, they looked really good down the stretch, but they were relying heavily on guys like Danny Green and Avery Bradley to pick up some of the load in the guard position, and it just looks tough for them right now. Like, they're getting exposed a lot in these competitive games, and I said it before, they could be a first round knockout. They could be a huge upset, a classic 2007 We Believe Warriors team when that 8 seed Warriors with Baron Davis and Jason Richardson and those guys, and they knocked out the 1 seed Dallas Mavericks. Like, we could see that. I don't think that's out of the realms of reality. They're 5-5 in their last 10. I mean, I don't know. The Clippers don't look that great either. So the Lakers have clinched the 1 seed. They're 52-18. The Clippers are in the 2nd seed. The Nuggets are in the 3rd seed. Again, I think those 2 teams clinched those spots already. The Rockets are in the 4th seed. The Oklahoma City Thunder are in the 5th seed, and in the 6th seed is the Utah Jazz. So those 3 teams could potentially move around a bit. I think both of them have about 2 games left, or all 3 of them have about 2 games left. So we don't exactly know for sure. I know the Nuggets won, or they played today. So we could see. I mean, so Houston is 44-26. Oklahoma City is 43-27. They're 1 game behind them. The Jazz are 43-28, half a game behind Oklahoma City. So who knows? That could be an interesting end to the week. The Dallas Mavericks are the 7 seed at 43-31. They're pretty much locked in at that 7 seed. They don't have enough games to make up to try and catch Utah, and they're 8.5 games ahead of the 8 seed, which is the Portland Trail Blazers. And this is where we jump into this very interesting scenario. So the West has a lot going on, besides the top teams not playing so well. And the Rockets playing very well, the Thunder playing very well. The Jazz are kind of hit or miss, but those middle teams could really make a run, and I think we could potentially see a world where the Rockets or the Thunder make it to the Western Conference Finals and are playing, either a Clippers team, a Lakers team, or maybe one of these 8 seeds that upsets. But the Blazers, with a win today over the Dallas Mavericks, have pretty much clinched a spot into that play-in game, that 8 or 9 seed. On Thursday, the Blazers play the Brooklyn Nets at 6 p.m. Western time, Pacific time. If they win that game, they clinch the 8 seed, and they clinch the opportunity to win the play-in game in 2 games, or play-in a round in 2 games, if that makes sense. So if you're the 9 seed, you have to win 2 games in order to make it into the playoffs. But if you're the 8 seed, you only have to win 1. So if you win on Saturday's first play-in game, that's it. We move on to the playoffs. The 9 seed doesn't get a second chance. But if that 8 seed loses on Saturday, then they have to play a second game on Sunday in order to make it in. So if Portland beats Brooklyn on Thursday, they get that 8 spot. They're in the clear. Now, in the 9 spot, as we sit right now, it's kind of a 3-way tie, but it's not really. But everybody's in this. The Memphis Grizzlies are 33-39. They are half a game back from the Trailblazers. The Phoenix Suns, which I want to say we completely overlooked them in our last pod last week. Now, they were on a insane fucking stretch. They've won 7 in a row. They've won every single game they played in the bubble. looking at the standings last week when me, Jackson, and Xavier were talking about it, we completely didn't even notice that. So we apologize to all the Phoenix Suns fans out there. Didn't give you the credit, completely overlooked. We didn't watch that many Suns games, but we've been paying attention, and good God, you guys could potentially make it in on Thursday. So it's going to be a very interesting thing to see. So they are also 33 and 39, a half a game back from Portland. Same win percentage, 45.8% or 0.458 win percentage. Both Grizzlies and Suns, because remember, that is going to be the tiebreaker for that 9 seed. Whoever has the best winning percentage is the one who's going to get in, not necessarily the one who has the most wins, because all these teams have played a different number of games. The San Antonio Spurs, 32 and 38. They are 1/100th of a percentage lower than the Suns and the Grizzlies. Remember, the Grizzlies and Suns are 0.458%. The Spurs are 0.457. It's that close. Now, all of those teams played today, Tuesday, August 11th. I'm recording this late at night so that I could update you guys on this. Here are the results of that. Phoenix beat Philadelphia 130 to 117. Memphis lost to Boston 120 to 107. Portland won 134 to 131. And San Antonio beat Houston 123 to 105. So all those teams won. Oh, sorry, Memphis lost, which brought them down from the 8 seed to the 9 seed, which allowed Portland to move up. So I'm calling Thursday Super Thursday. It's going to be a thing. Spread the word. I'm trying really hard to make it a thing. So tweet it out there. Super Thursday. Because here's the schedule for Thursday's slate of games. All 4 of those teams play. They don't play each other, but they all play. Memphis is going to be playing Milwaukee. And remember, this is a Milwaukee team who already clinched the number 1 seed. They are still playing their starters, obviously, because they have to get their minutes. They have to stay in shape for the playoffs, which are next week. So we might see Giannis a little bit, but probably only like about 25 to 30 minutes. Nothing crazy. Today I guess he headbutted someone in the game, so he got thrown out. I don't know if he's going to be suspended for that or not. We'll see. That game is at 1 p.m. Pacific time. Phoenix plays Dallas, also at 1 p.m. That game is going to be on TNT. Dallas, who, even though they've pretty much locked their 7 seed, still playing hard. Today, the Portland game came down to the very last possession. They were playing their asses off. They were trying to win that game. I don't know if it's just they're trying to get in the competitive spirit for the playoffs, or if they're just really intensified. They wanted to knock out Portland. I don't know. I can't understand it, but they're playing hard. And Kristaps and Luka played a lot of minutes, and Hardaway, kind of their main guys. So they play at 1 p.m. San Antonio plays Utah. Remember, Utah is fighting to move up in the standings from the 5 seed to potentially the 4, from the 6 seed to potentially the 5 or the 4. Because if you're Utah, would you rather play the Nuggets or would you rather play the Rockets, or the Thunder? Depending on how you want to see that matchup. I think they're a pretty good matchup against the Rockets personally, and I believe they have a win against them already during the bubble. So I think the Nuggets would be a little bit tougher, but we'll see. Anyway. They play San Antonio at 3:30 p.m. That game is also on TNT. And then the final game of the night at 6 p.m. on TNT is Portland versus Brooklyn. Brooklyn doesn't really have anything to play for right now. I feel like this is the easiest game of those 4 teams, right? Going into it. Because even with Milwaukee, let's say that they still aren't playing hard. They're still just kind of going through the motions just to get the game over with. They're still a tough team. Whereas Brooklyn, they have nothing to play for, and they're not a good team. So this is a very interesting scenario for Portland. Let's go through how Thursday could potentially pan out. So for for the Blazers. If they lose, again, they automatically pretty much punch their ticket to that play-in game because they win tiebreakers on both win percentage, and matchups throughout the season because their win percentage right now is, because they have played an extra game, they're 34 wins, so they have 2 games up on the Spurs and 1 game up on the Grizzlies and the Suns. Their win percentage is .466. And their tiebreakers with their in-season matchups, because after the win percentage, they're going to go to head-to-head matchups. They're 2-1 against the Spurs. They're 2-2 against the Suns, and they're 1-1 against the Grizzlies. They pretty much made it through, based on all the scenarios that I saw. For Memphis needs to win, obviously, but they also need all 3 teams to lose if they want to make it in. They are probably, if all 4 of these teams lose, they would still sneak in on win percentage, because right now where they are at basically would stay the same, all the standings. Memphis is technically the 9 seed at this point, so they would slide in. But if Phoenix wins, it would come down to Phoenix would get in. But because they have the same win percentage, if they both lose, Memphis gets the tie because they won the in-season series 3-1. So Memphis is in a good spot if the Suns lose and if the Spurs lose. The Spurs, if they want to get that 8 seed, it's basically almost impossible. They need all 3 teams to lose and they have to win. If they want to get into the 9th seed and they want to get into the play-in game, they need 2 of those teams to lose and they have to win. So no matter what, the Spurs have to win. The Grizzlies and the Suns don't necessarily have to have that scenario. They could lose and hopefully the other teams lose and they could potentially still get in. But the Spurs absolutely have to win Thursday's game. Now the Suns, very interesting situation because they do not have much of an advantage in the season series already played against any of these teams. They're 1-2 against the Spurs, they're 2-2 against the Blazers, and they're 1-3 against the Grizzlies. They really need the Spurs and the Grizzlies to lose if they want to get through. The Blazers, it doesn't really matter too much, but if they want to get the 8th seed, they need the Blazers to lose, and they have to win. So the Suns are kind of in a very similar situation. They have to win Thursday's game. The Blazers and the Grizzlies are they have a little bit more options. And the Blazers have also the benefit of playing the last game of the night at 6 p.m. So this is a fucking wild situation. I was talking to Manny Rinn today. I was texting back and forth with him about NBA stuff while we were watching the games. I just wish they would just fucking go away with these tiebreaker rules and just let all 4 of these teams just play this weekend. Think about how much fun that'd be. You do a round robin little tournament on Saturday. You make the guys, you make the teams play a couple games in one day. Whatever. They're playing for the playoffs. I'm sure they'd be down to do it. You do a round robin, and then you kind of like a Champions League European tournament type of thing. And then on Sunday, you do the final. Whoever the 2 top teams of the round robin tournament from Saturday are, you make them play each other on Sunday to get that 8th seed. I think that'd be incredible. You know how much fun that'd be? Like a mini March Madness. It'd be so much fun. I would do nothing on Saturday. I would just sit at home and watch those games all day. It would be amazing. But either way, we got some excitement. Super Thursday is going to be fucking intense. And if you're a basketball fan, you have to be tuning in because it's just entertainment at its fullest. So those are scenarios. And again, outside of bubble teams, 4, 5, and 6 seed in the West are definitely up for grabs. Houston, OKC, and Utah, all within about a game to a game and a half, so we could see some movement there. I doubt it, but we could see something. Lakers aren't playing so well. I would look out for a potential first-round upset, at least 7 games, or at least 6 to 7 games. We could see that. Clippers haven't been playing so well, but they're also getting some key bench spots back pretty soon. But the bottom of the picture is where we should be looking, because it's going to be intense. So that's where we're at with the NBA. It should be a lot of fun, and I, yeah. I don't really know what else to say. It's just absolutely incredible that we've gotten to this point. I do want to talk about some of these teams and how we can kind of see like what we should kind of look for this weekend. So the Spurs are a team that have really intrigued me, especially with like their future and what they could potentially do. So they've been playing this small. They've been playing it obviously for the past 2 seasons, but I haven't noticed it as much, and because I haven't watched as many Spurs games. But with the restart, I've been able to do that. And Derek White really came up last year. He kind of was a surprise. He looked like he'd just kind of be like a nice role player, but he's kind of turning into, especially during the bubble, he's averaging 25, 5, and 5. It's pretty amazing. It's kind of turned into a really like solid complementary piece, especially with no Aldridge, complementary piece to DeRozan, which DeRozan's kind of been all over the place. He's kind of has been like a 12 and like 5 and 5 guy. So like Derek White has been pretty clutch in terms of like coming in with big minutes and putting in, and getting points when they need it, and he's been playing well, especially in the new game because he's a 3-point shooter, and Spurs don't have a lot of 3-point shooters. So this 3-guard lineup is really fascinating. DeJounte Murray, Derek White, and DeRozan. DeRozan's like a 6'6" guard, so he kind of can play the small forward. I feel like it's going to be tougher when you go up against bigger teams like the Lakers with LeBron, who's 6'8" and 260 of straight muscle, or like I don't know, Utah with Joe Ingles. I mean, the list goes on and on. Although a lot of teams play smaller these days, I feel like that position's pretty still stuck at like the 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", like bigger small forward. So we'll see. I mean, he's a pretty one-dimensional player. He doesn't really shoot threes very well. I think this season's been his worst. He only averages like 1.2 a game. I think he's like 25% from three, which is like brutal. But that's not really like Greg Popovich's like scheme though, so it's kind of weird. But you got DeRozan, you got Derek White. He's just lighting it up, playing the 2 position. He's kind of a tall 2 or a tall point guard though. He's about 6'4". Really good offensively, decent defensive player. And then you got DeJounte Murray, who's just like, you never know what you're going to get from him on the offensive side. Like some days he'll come out and score 15 and 5, and then other days he'll be like 5 and 5. His assists are always there. He doesn't really have good ball handling, but like he really sees the floor well, and he can really facilitate well, but he doesn't need to have like really good ball handling. He doesn't need to bring the ball up because Derek White is really good at that. And Derek White used to be, is a true point guard playing the shooting guard position. But Murray's a great defender. You put him on the opposite like star guard, and he's gonna do work. He's gonna force the other person to make tough shots. Jacob Portal's been playing really well. That stretch 5, it's been really nice. Kind of like really getting points in the paint when you need it. And again, like he's been working really hard for those points because this team don't shoot many threes. I mean, the only 3-point shooters they have on the roster are Patty Mills, Derek White, and Gallinari. So it's like they don't open the court up very much. So like Portal's really working hard for those points. Let's see, like today, let me see. He had 14 points, 1 block, 12 rebounds. Solid game. 6 for 7 from the field, 2 for 3 from free throw. Not bad. 9 defensive rebounds, 3 offensive rebounds. Pretty good. Derek White, not so good of a day. Only 7 points. But also, and then Murray only 11. DeRozan got 23. 9 for 13 from the field, and he shot 0 threes. So I think a big reason why Derek White's points were so low is because he was only 1 from 8 from 3 today. But Derek White typically shoots about 6 to 7 threes a game. He sits around 35%. He's a solid 3-point shooter. He opens up the floor a little bit. But also, so I want to get into it, the depth on this team is pretty insane. Rudy Gay has been playing in really good minutes. He had 13 points today, 5 rebounds. Lonnie Walker has been fantastic off the bench for them. He's averaging 12 points a game. Or no, sorry, he had 12 points a game today. He had 7 rebounds. He's averaging 6 and 39% from 3. He's really playing quality minutes off the bench to rest these guys like White and DeRozan. The only thing I think they're missing is like a stretch 4 who can shoot from the outside. Remember, the game of basketball is played dramatically different nowadays. You need guys who can shoot all over the court to open up the paint for guys like Porto, for guys like Aldridge, but also to score when you need it, to get those quick points. For those of you who don't do math very well, 3 points is more than 2 points. So that's the way the game is played these days. I feel like there's some pretty good big men who are free agents this offseason. Danilo Gallinari, he's a free agent this offseason. I think he's like a perfect stretch forward. Oh, I think I said Gallinari earlier on the Spurs. I meant to say Marco Bellinelli. He's one of the other guys that shoots threes. But Danilo Gallinari, sorry, 6'10", forward, can definitely score in the paint. This season he shot 41% from 3. Let's see, his his 3-point attempts. He's at 7 a game, so that's pretty good. 41% with 7 attempts per game. He's averaging 19 points a game. He gets around 5 rebounds a game, nothing crazy, but I mean that's where you have Aldridge, to pick up and to block shots. Like, this is more of an offensively driven guy. Like, imagine him playing next to Aldridge. It'd be fucking insane. He'd really spread the floor and help out guys like Derek White and honestly, he'd help out DeRozan's game. DeRozan's a one-dimensional guy. He either drives the hoop or he looks for those like pull-up mid-range jumpers. He'd open up the paint in tremendously for this team. DeJounte Murray can't shoot to save his life. Give more help off the bench to guys like Patty Mills and stuff like that. I mean, I feel like he'd be huge. Marc Gasol is another good guy who really developed a great 3-point shooting game the past couple of years. There's a lot of free agents who could really help them. I think there's definitely a lot of potential for them. The Suns, DeAndre Ayton's really come into his own. I know he got popped for like some type of like performance enhancers or something last year, but he looks good and he's a good compliment for Booker. Ricky Rubio's fit in really well with that team, so I really like where that team's kind of going. I feel like if they were in the fucking Eastern Conference, they'd be like a 4 or 5 seed. Like, it's just the shitty luck of the draw with being in the West. I've talked about the Blazers plenty of times. I think they're like a true 3 seed in the West. If they would have had a healthy Nurkic and Collins, we'd be talking completely different about them. But one piece I really want to talk about, Gary Trent Jr. off the bench. He's been a huge spark off the bench for them. He's averaging, like, in this bubble, it's like 16 points a game. Like, that's production off the bench that they were not getting last year. I know Mo Harkless played decently well. I know Rodney Hood played decently well, but nothing like that. He's been like a regular, like 16 points a game for them. It's been solid. And then Melo came out of nowhere. I thought his career was over for sure. That's a huge surprise to me. And he can shoot. He can score from anywhere on the court. Like, he's such a asset. He's got length. To really help out Nurkic on the other side of the court. Like, I'm a fan. Not sure what's going on with the Grizzlies. I know they lost Jaren Jackson a couple days ago. So it's been a lot of weight on Josh's shoulders, and he's trying to kind of keep it together, but it's tough. They were really a good two person team, with a lot of help from a lot of role guys like Grayson Allen and Jonas Valanciunas and Josh Jackson, all these other guys. But when you're missing your number 2 guy, you got to find other people to try and rely on. Luckily Grayson Allen's been playing amazing. He's probably been the most improved player you could say potentially in the NBA, but definitely in the bubble, and he's been a huge help to him. But I don't know. It's just, it doesn't look good for them. I know they have a lot of helpful scenarios in their favor on Thursday, but I would be worried if I'm a Grizzlies fan. I don't know if they're going to be able to pull this one out, especially with the way the Suns have been playing, and their matchup. Though Milwaukee has nothing to play for, they are still a very good team, and they could still just beat the Grizzlies just to beat the Grizzlies. So we'll see. Again, Super Thursday. It's going to be exciting. Don't forget to tune in. I know I will be sitting on my couch at 1 o'clock, and I will not be done watching basketball until late at night. So with that, we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back. And I'm going to talk about the PGA Championship, which was last weekend. All right, we're back. So, golf fans, PGA Championship finished Sunday, August 9th. Very interesting tournament. It felt like there was a new leader each day going into each round. So, except for the first 2 rounds was pretty much led by one person. So, I'm probably saying his name right, so I apologize now. The Chinese Hao Tong Li was leading through 2 days, the first round. He looked pretty good from what I remember seeing. He had a really good day 1. He didn't really feed off of day 2. He kind of stayed pretty consistent day 2. I don't know exactly what he shot. Oh, wait, I do. It's right here. So he shot, I had it the other way around. So he shot a 67, which is pretty good, and then he shot a 65 round 2, so it looked pretty good. And then round 3, he shot a 73, and then the final round on Sunday, he shot a 69. So it's like he pretty much blew it on day 3, and then he just couldn't come back on day 4. And then Dustin Johnson after 3 days. So round 1, he had 69, pretty solid. Then round 2, he shoots a 67. All right, cool. He's making up some distance. He's catching Lee a little bit. And then on day 3, he shoots a 65. And ends with the solo lead at -9. Now, for those of you who know golf, Dustin is known to be a bit of a choker on Sundays. It's the reason why he's only won, I think it's 2 majors, something like that. Because he's most famously known for the 2015, I think it's 2015 U.S. Open. On the 18th hole with Jordan Spieth, he missed the par putt to win it, and he bogeys on 18 and epically loses. Okay, so he's only won one. Yeah, that was 2015. So in 2016, he won the U.S. Open, so he's only won 1 major. He's tied for second in 2011 at the Open Championship, and he tied second in 2019 at the Masters. And then he is tied for second in 2019 and then 2020 at the PGA Championship, which was one of them this year. So, Dustin does the classic Dustin Johnson. Chokes on Sunday. Well, not necessarily choke. He shot a 68, so he was 4 under, but he just looked like he couldn't buy a birdie to save his life the entire time. He just was struggling. Or I think it's a par 70 actually, so he was 2 under. It just felt like every single hole when he needed a birdie, he was fucking parring. So that's just, you can't win a tournament doing that. So Jason Day also played a really good tournament. Shot a 65 on day 1. So he was at the top of the leaderboard after day 1. Shot a 69 round 2. Kind of stayed in the middle. 70 round 3. You know, at that point, you figure you got a lot of ground to make up, and then shoots a 66 and really makes a run on Sunday. But the person who we're going to talk about at the very end of this was just playing better than anybody was ever played and really stepped up. So there was just no shot for him. Tony Finau. So actually, I want to talk about Tony Finau and Bryson DeChambeau at the same, because they played together on the final round on Sunday. They were the second to last group, I believe. Yeah, I think it was the second to last group. And both of them were kind of like throughout the day, creating some distance or closing in the distance on the leader. And they made it very dramatic. I mean, it came down to the 18th hole. If it wasn't for an amazing par 4 drive to the green by the leader, they would have really had a shot going into it. So Tony Finau hit a 67 on day 1, a 70 on day 2, 67 on day 3, and a 66 on the last day. Bryson DeChambeau hit a 68 on round 1 on Thursday, a 70 on Friday, a 66 in round 3 on Saturday, and another 66 in round 4. And Bryson was doing exactly what he's been doing over the past 2 months since the restart. He's just been fucking bombing it off the tee. Doesn't matter where it lies. He's hitting it 50 to 100 feet or 100 yards. No, not 100 yards, but about 50 yards farther than everybody else. Whether it's in the trees, in the rough, on the fairway, in the sand, doesn't matter. He's hitting it farther than everybody else, so he has an advantage. That's the way he's been playing. And it's been working. And it worked for him on Sunday because he was one back up until the 17th hole. Him and Tony. They were playing really well. And had this been any other tournament, they really would have had a shot. But they didn't. Justin Rose was playing really well. He shot a 66 on that first round on Thursday. And I think he was tied for first with, like Scheffler and Day, I think, was up at the top of that list too. And what is it? Brendan Todd, never even heard of him, but he was in there. But he just kind of fell off. He shot a 70 on Saturday and then a 67, which just didn't quite cut it. So he ended the tournament 9 under. Also, by the way, Tony Finau and Bryson DeChambeau also ended the tournament at 10 under. So they tied for third. Yeah, and a lot of people you would think would be in the mix. Patrick Reed, he was kind of in the mix, but just the first 3 days didn't quite cut it. 68, 70, 69. Didn't really catch his groove until Sunday. He tends to do that a lot. He doesn't golf so well the beginning of the weekend, and then he comes in hard on Sunday and just, a little too late. Rory's the same way. Rory's been tough. He's had a tough go of it the past 6 years. He just can't quite put it together when he needs to. And then probably the biggest meltdown, which is probably the biggest shock of the entire weekend, was Brooks Koepka. So Brooks, going into Sunday, so at the end of Saturday, was tied for second with 6 under, maybe tied, or 5 under, maybe tied for first. He was in the running, and a lot of people thought that he was going to take it because he was playing really well. He was very cocky as well. I think he said in the post-tournament interview, press conference on Saturday, that it was his to lose, and he knew that he was going to win. So he shot a 66 on Thursday, round 1. Shot a 68 round 2 on Friday. Shot a 69. Which honestly, this should have been a sign because every single day he went higher and higher on the scoreboard, or should I say lower. He didn't play as well as day 1. 69 on Saturday, round 3, and then he shoots a 74. He shoots 4 over par on Sunday and just completely chokes. Ends the tournament at 3 under. I mean, ugh. Which is probably the most surprising because Brooks in the past 2 years has been the opposite of that. He's always been the one who's stepped up and to the pressure and came in clutch on the final day. And he just completely had a meltdown, which is fucking insane. I don't know if we're going to see that from him going forward with the 2 majors left with the U.S. Open next month and then the Masters in November. But, like, I would imagine this gets to him a little bit. We got a tournament this weekend. I don't know who's playing. If he's in there, I'm definitely going to watch closely because it could be a telltale sign. Tiger Woods ended the tournament 1 under. Had a pretty strong first round, 68. And then rounds 2 and 3, he ended over par. So 72 round 2, 72 round 3. Shot a 67 round 4 final day, but it just wasn't quite enough. I was a little shocked on how well he did round 1 as well because so I think, like I said with Bobby on this podcast a couple weeks ago, he took the entire restart off. He hadn't been playing in any tournaments, and then he decided to play in a tournament 2 weeks ago, and he played awful. He ended the tournament 8 over par. That wasn't really a good sign. It just felt like he wasn't in season as much as the other guys. He wasn't warmed up, and he was going to struggle, especially on a really tough course like TPC Garden Park. But he played well day 1, but then he just, I think kind of what I said just about him and not being in shape and in season and not getting the practice tournaments in. He just kind of, his body couldn't handle it. Justin Thomas, number 1 player in the world, another player who I thought was going to do really well. Unfortunately, his first 2 rounds just weren't great. I think the course was just really tough on him. His skills don't translate well in that Harding Park golf course. The conditions were all over the place. It was really foggy. You could tell it was a little bit wet because of the fog. And the fairways are really thin there. It felt like because I know the wind wasn't blowing too hard. It didn't seem like it. But I think just the fairways are so thin that it felt like everybody's drive was like hooking to the right or going into the rough, into the trees. Like, no one was really hitting the fairway every single time. They all kind of struggled with that. So now I want to get to the champion, the guy who everybody for some reason is comparing to the next Tiger, which I think we hear that every 2 years, and it's kind of insane. So we'll see. But Collin Morikawa, Cal alumni, played golf at University of California, Berkeley. 23 years old, from Southern California, shoots a 69 round 1. Cool. 100 par, middle of the pack. He's there. Round 2, 69 again. 200 par. All right. Middle of the pack again. He's probably teeing off Sunday around 9 o'clock. Nothing too special. Round 3, shoots a 65. Yeah, 65. Goes up to -7. All right, he's at the top of the leaderboard now because a lot of guys have fallen off. Tony Finau didn't shoot so well day 2. Xander Schauffele didn't shoot so well day 2. Jason Day didn't shoot so well day 3. Yeah. And then Sunday, shoots a 64. And remember, so he went to Cal. This is one of his home courses. He played here multiple times in college tournaments, TPC Garden Park. So he knows this course better than anybody who's playing on it this weekend. With 3 holes left, he birdies the last 3. Or last 2. Or 2 of the last 3. Or no. He birdies 1 and then he eagles 17. So he birdies 16. Okay, cool. Bryson, Tony Finau, right on his tail. They see that he's birdieing that, so they got to step up. What do? They also birdie 16. Go into 17. Remember, he's a couple groups ahead of these guys because he didn't play so well round 1 and 2. So he teed off a little bit earlier. Goes into 17. Now par par 17 is a par 4, but it's barely a par 4. I think it's like, I don't know, like 2. Oh, shit. I think it's like late 2s, 200, like 280, something like that. It's pretty, or no, I don't know exactly. But it's drivable for a professional. 280 is too short, my bad. That's like amateur. It's like 3 something. It's very drivable. A lot of guys have tried to drive the green all weekend. I think Bryson's the only one who's been somewhat successful, but you're never going to get close to the hole with those. So Collin Morikawa, knowing that DeChambeau and Tony Finau and a little kind of Dustin Johnson are right on his tail, decides, all right, I'm going to go for it on 17. I'm not going to lay up. I'm not going to hit it with my 3 and then try to go from there and either try and birdie it in 3 or settle with a par. I'm going to go for it. So he drives the green on 17. Gets it within 6 feet of the hole. Can you believe that? He drives the green and gets the ball within 6 feet of the hole. He eagles on 17. Goes up 2. He's at 13 under. All this kid has to do, and Bryson and Finau only have 2 holes left after this. And they're at -10. So they need to do the same thing. They need to drive the green on 17. They need to eagle, but then on top of that, they have to birdie 18, which 18 is also a very birdieable, for a pro, obviously, I'm not saying for myself, a very birdieable hole. You definitely can drive it, get within 50 yards of the hole, chip it up on the green, and then try and put it in. Now you're going, there's kind of like a bay. So for the listeners, TPC Harding Park is in San Francisco. It's on Lake Merced. On 18, it kind of creates like a bay that the hole kind of goes around. You tee off on one side of the lake, and then the hole finishes on the other side of the lake, not directly across, but like kind of like on the end of it, like again like a bay. So you have to go over the water, so it's a little bit more risky, and it also bends to the left. It's harder to hook to the left than it is to slice to the right for right-handed golfers. So anyway, Collin, knowing that he's up by 3 shots, doesn't bother trying to, or he does bother trying to birdie, but he just kind of doesn't quite get it. So he pars on 18. But as soon as he, like right before he's about to hit his last shot, his last couple putts, Bryson and Tony Finau both don't drive the green. They're about 20 yards away from the green. So they kind of have to settle for trying to birdie. So they attempt to birdie, but they miss. And they par on 17. So there's just no, after that, there's just no way they can make up the ground. In order to tie it, they would have to eagle on 18. They would have to hole in one on 18. So by that point, Collin kind of figures out, I won. He puts it in. He's very excited, and he wins. 23-year-old Asian Collin Morikawa. I know that's not important, his race, but just to paint a picture. So I apologize. I'm not trying to be racist, just trying to paint a picture. From Southern California, Cal alumni. Look out for him in the upcoming major season because he is going to be a force to be reckoned with, especially with the way that he played this weekend and just in general the way that he just stepped up and took on the pressure and did like what we always talk about in sports with champions and what they do when the championship's on the line, and he sees the moment. He didn't have to hit that eagle on 17. He could have birdied it, could have parred it, and he still would have been up. It would have been a closer end of the tournament, but he did it because he knew that he needed to, and he went for it. On top of that, he didn't even have to go for it. He could have just laid up and hoped that Bryson and Finau didn't don't play as well. But he was like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna try and drive this 17 so I can get this birdie." And he did. And he stepped up and he thrived under the pressure. And I really think he's gonna be fun to watch this major season. I think he's got to be the favorite going in the U.S. Open. Among others, probably Finau, DeChambeau, Dustin Johnson, Patrick Reed, Justin Thomas will probably be in that favorite. Tiger's always in there, so Tiger too. Adam Scott too. But I think he's going to be the one to watch. I don't know enough about his game because this is the first tournament I've even heard about him to tell you what courses would be to his advantage. But I can tell you that I really liked what I saw, and I was really impressed. And as someone who pays not close attention to golf, but major season comes around, I do. But someone who's been a lifelong golf fan, I can tell you that he's going to be an upcoming star in the sport. And I think that's kind of the funniest thing about this sport right now. So, like, the 90s and 2000s, it was pretty much the Tiger and Phil show. Mostly Tiger, obviously, but it's kind of dominated by one athlete, just Tiger, and then a couple athletes just dominating the sport. And, the past few years, 5 or 6 years, all these young guys have come up and really kind of even out the playing field and even out the field and made it a lot more interesting to watch, in my opinion. Like, I've paid the most attention and been the most close to or been a bigger fan of golf in the past 5 or 6 years because of that. I don't like just knowing that Tiger's going to win every weekend. I like seeing kind of who can pull out what in each tournament and really seeing the drama and what it comes down to on the final round. So seeing guys like, Jason Day and Dustin Johnson come up 8 years ago, and then the past 6 years, Jordan Spieth, Bryson DeChambeau, Tony Finau, Patrick Reed, Ricky Fowler, my favorite golfer, Brooks Koepka, Justin Thomas, all these young guys. It's just been so much fun to watch, and I think we can definitely now put Morikawa in that list. And if you haven't been watching golf before, now's the time to tune in, man, because it's definitely not a one man's game anymore. It's not Jordan and the Bulls in the 90s. It's more open than that, and it's a lot of fun to watch. All right. I think that's going to do it. I hope I did okay. Solo pod today. Stay tuned next week. I'll be back. Probably talk more NBA next week. I'm going to try to get Jackson and Xavier back so we can go through the playoff scenarios and whatnot. We will have had the play-in game will have been over with already. So we'll have our 8 seed, and then we'll have our field, and we'll probably be a game or two into the playoffs. So stay tuned for that. Also, check out my new podcast, the Town Tailgate Podcast with Julio Reynoso. It's on any streaming podcast platform. We put out episodes every Thursday. This week we'll be talking about the Ramon Lore. It's an Oakland A's podcast, by the way, but we also talk general MLB sport or MLB news. This week we'll be talking about the Ramon Laureano brawl, and his suspension and how we feel that it should be handled. Not necessarily suspension, but how now the suspension is given, how Ramon should handle it. Also, there is a new lawsuit that the A's are involved with some steel company in West Oakland. And why, and we're going to talk about that and why they're involved and how they're involved and things of that sort and how it benefits their stadium situation. So tune in that episode and tune into this podcast more. Please subscribe. Please rate it. It helps me a lot in my career for conversational domination. So thanks a lot for listening, and I'll see you guys next week.